turned the heat on yet. Okay,
you haven't really?
I have not turned the heat on yet.
That's great.
And so I'm freezing in my house. Okay.
Before I ask you this next question, I want to thank the good people of Window Nation for sponsoring this and every other episode of Cowboys Overtime. Clarence, before I get into your heating decision, which I really love and respect, you got big news in the Hill household last week. It was right after I think we filmed, which is one of your beautiful daughters, your youngest beautiful daughter, was admitted to Rice University. So you have your oldest, who went to Howard, who's attending Howard, and the youngest, Jaira, is accepted by Rice. And for people who are watching this, I can't recommend strongly enough to go to Clarence's Twitter account, scroll down, or go to the media part and find the video where Jaira finds out that she was accepted by Rice University. Congratulations to her. I'm sure as her dad, you were beaming with pride, yes?
Being with pride and screaming for my pocketbooks. How about that? Screaming I'm like hurting. But yeah, she's a great student, state champion gymnast, and her dream school was Rice. Now she's been accepted to LSU and Texas and some other places, but her dream school was Rice. And when she got the call from Rice, she just, was beyond excited and happy. Now we got to try to find a way to make the money work.
Yeah, I know that's probably not $10 a semester or anything like that. That was really neat. As far as college acceptance videos, those are kind of a viral thing.
Yeah,
your daughter's was as good as any. Like watching her run around the neighborhood and go, ballistic. That was fantastic.
Yeah, no, really neat. Listen, you have daughters. I got two. They can be excitable.
Yes, I can relate to that. Let's go into your decision real quick to not turn the heat on. As DFW gets ready for its Arctic winter blast about 2 months earlier than we normally get it. How long do you think you can hold out before you turn on the heat?
I mean, first of all, it's coming tonight because my dad is coming, and my dad is on his way here for Christmas, and so he's he got on blood, his thin blood is going, and so I'm getting ready for a fight between my dad and my sister, who's always hot, and my dad is always cold. And we're somewhere in between. And so it's a fight. And he wants this space heater. But, I turned it off last week because it got hot. And so I went out of town to Jacksonville, and I just haven't turned it back on since I returned from Jacksonville. And I've been okay, but it's starting to get cold. And I think it temperature dipped a little bit last night. It's a little chilly this morning. And we all know that Arctic freeze is coming in on Thursday. So I haven't turned it back on yet, but it's going to happen today because my dad will demand it. Yes.
What's the thermostat in your house reading right now?
I don't know. It's probably in the 60s.
Mid-60s? That's not bad. So in the summertime, what would you set the thermostat at?
I'm a 72 guy. I try to keep it at 72. But my house is under a tree, so it's generally cool.
Oh, you're lucky.
I don't really have to run. It's pretty cool. And so it can get cold, but it can be cool and airy. So I don't really have to, blaze the air conditioner like that.
I'm not going to talk about what I set it at. It's a little bit higher than 72. Okay. Let's talk about the Dallas.
78, 79, 80?
78. It's 70. Because the AC guy said they can really only drop at about 20 degrees from outside. That's what the AC guy said. So I was like, okay, what do I set it at? He said, probably set it at 78. So when I come in from outside, when it's 158 degrees, 78 feels like it's a winter blast. At least that's what I tell myself.
Okay. In your house, see, they do. My girls, they dictate. Just like I succumb.
I totally understand that. Speaking of succumbing, the Dallas Cowboys seem to be succumbing to the pressures of playing the AFC South. You were in Jacksonville on Sunday for the carnage where the Cowboys blew a 27-10 third quarter lead, only to go on and pull an Indianapolis Colts and lose in Jacksonville on a walk-off interception return for a touchdown by the Jaguars' Rayshon Jenkins off the deflection from Noah Brown, who decided that he can't catch passes anymore. There's a lot to get into about this game. Mike McCarthy's decision to pass on a 3rd and 10 when the Cowboys were trying to run out the clock and handed the Jaguars a killed clock and a free timeout. It was one of the worst decisions I've seen in a long time. But the big thing now, everybody's killing. You've written about it a couple times. Dak Prescott has owned it, which is his interceptions. And he's got 11 on the season, but he has 7 in the last 4 games. Clarence, I know I'm going to be in the minority on this one. I'm not worried about Dak throwing interceptions because if you go in and look at these 7 that he's thrown, a handful of them are on the receiver, and he got hit a couple of times as he was throwing the ball. Now they're on him. That's just what
they go on his ledger.
Yeah, that's on his ledger one way or the other. You can't get away from it. But if you go in and look at it, especially that last one to Noah Brown, I can't kill him for it. I know we want to, and I know he says he's got to cut it out. I'm just not that worried about it. Are you?
I'm not worried about it, and the Cowboys aren't worried about it. Yes, overall, you don't want to throw interceptions. You don't want to turn the ball over, but you have to look at each play in itself and see why it happened. So I mean, there's nothing Dak can do when he throws the ball to a guy and hits him in both hands. He drops it up into another guy's hands for interception, who walks it off into the end zone, which is crazy to me. It boggles my mind that the more I'm in this business and the more I deal with this stuff, people don't know football or don't care about the facts of football. They only care about their point of view or their narrative that Dak sucks. So this is all because Dak can't win the big one. Is the reason why they lost the game, and the reason why Noah Brown dropped the interception that turned into a pick six. It's all because Dak can't win the big one. It's because they paid Dak $40 million. It's because he's an average quarterback. Never minding the fact that, even after the first interception, which was a bad decision, even though he got his arm in, bad decision, he brought the team down and put them in the lead, which is what you want your quarterbacks to do. Not, no one plays the perfect game. Patrick Mahomes is not, is not interception free. Tom Brady's never been interception free. But what is your quarterback going to do after he makes a mistake? He's going to go down and show some toughness and some competitiveness and put your team in the league, which is what Dak did. Now we can break down the third down call all we want to on the drive right before at the end of regulation. They threw the incomplete pass, but Dak's play in itself is not the problem for this football team. It's certainly not why they lost to the Jaguars on Sunday. My biggest concern, and certainly we'll talk about that later, is this Cowboys defense that was once doomsday or calling themselves doomsday that started to look like doom and gloom of years past.
In terms of watching Dak Prescott play, I think this is as well as he's played. And I know the interceptions are a big deal. They, like you said, they're on his ledger. If you look at those passes, especially these last 2 games, or even go back to the Giants game when he threw 2 interceptions, if you look at them and you really break them down, let's just go back and look at some of the decisions. I mean, his receivers are not helping him at all. And I know they keep going to Noah Brown because at one point they put 3 guys on CeeDee Lamb. What are you supposed to do? You're not going to throw it. CeeDee Lamb's really, really good. He's had a great season. He ain't Randy Moss. You're not throwing in triple coverage to that guy.
If you guys have been listening to me since training camp.
Don't give me that. You give me the whole $40 million speech too.
The receivers are a problem. They have been a problem. They've made no play. They score a few touchdowns in training camp. I called it CD and the maybes way back in August.
That's true. You did.
I said CD and the maybes. The baby maybes, really, because they were talking about the rookie. But it was CD and the maybes. They week in and week out, the Cowboys go into each game with arguably the worst receiving core on the field, week in and week out. Week in and week out, they certainly were the worst receiving core on the field Sunday. And
that's a bold statement. Do you think so? Like when they were playing Houston and the Colts and something, do you think their receiving core is worse than some of those bad?
Obviously there are a few exceptions.
Okay.
But by and large, they have the worst receiving core on the field, and there's no question.
I think you could say definitely of the really good contending teams. I don't know who would be worse than Dallas.
And you wonder why they're pulling the hairs out trying to get Odell Beckham and listen. We hope and pray and that T.Y. Hilton at 33 can still play, but he's 33.
Yeah.
He was
hadn't played in a year.
He was on at home for a reason. He was not the same player he was early in his career with the Colts. It's the reason why they moved on from him. Is he better than James Washington, Noah Brown? Possibly, but again, it's not like we're getting ready to give CD a Pro Bowl caliber receiver to come and join this receiving core and both the receiving core. And you got Michael Gallup, who's not been the player that they had hoped he would be coming off the ACL injury. It's a problem.
It's a problem, and you've said it a bunch of times on social media and other places too. Clarence, had Amari Cooper agreed to take the COVID shot last year, do you think he's still a Cowboy?
Oh, there's no question about that. I mean,
wow.
the Cowboys let their money get mad. They let their feelings get mad over Amari Cooper. Certainly we were in a different world last year than we are this year. There are a number of Cowboys who've had COVID this year. They just sit them out and play and keep on. No one even talks about it. COVID is not gone. This is how we deal with it. Handling is gone, and I'm glad we were able to move on. I've gotten all my shots, and I believe in getting a shot. But again, this Amari Cooper decision was not just about football. It was about they were upset about him not getting the COVID shot and going all in last year. But the bottom line.
Oh, I think Clarence froze up on us. It's actually a good look for him. I should take that picture and maybe take it for a. Oh, there you froze up on us, Clarence. Can you finish
again, the bottom line is Jerry. It's about winning, and Jerry gives guys second chances all the time.
No doubt.
Yes. You can do whatever off the field, but if you help us win, you no chance.
You were there on Sunday.
But again, so if it's about winning and doing whatever you can to help you win, why would you give her a guy that can help you win?
Because I didn't like him. All right, let's go on to the next subject because we could talk about this one for a long time. You mentioned the defense. At the beginning of the season, first 8 games or so, Cowboys defense looked fantastic. Top 5 in the league. Tank Lawrence looked great. Micah Parsons a sack and a quarterback every other play. Cover corners. Safeties are making plays. Donovan Wilson's everywhere. Leighton Vander Esch looks like a guy who can potentially get a multi-year contract. Well, now you got to worry about this defense. Leighton Vander Esch suffered a neck injury. I hate this for 1,000 different reasons. One, he was playing well. 2, he was playing on a 1-year deal. So now who knows how that's going to affect his future contract chances. Dorrance Armstrong was having a great year. He suffers a little bit of an injury against Jacksonville. The corners are a mess. There are injuries there. Kelvin Joseph looks like, basically the Cowboys are holding open tryouts at corner for anybody to come in and play opposite Trayvon Diggs. The defensive line doesn't look as good. They gave up over 500 yards to the Jaguars on Sunday. Giving up 500 yards in an NFL game is really hard to do because there's just not enough time, but they somehow managed to do it. They're giving up 19.2 points per game. That's 7th in the NFL. They still have, statistically, they look pretty good defensively, but anybody who watches them knows this is a problem. Now, can they fix it?
Yeah, it's a huge problem, and they're start with Leighton Vander Esch. I mean, he's had a history of neck problems, and and one reason why he's on a 1-year deal is because the Cowboys are not going to give him a multi-year deal, because he's basically a year-to-year player because of his neck issues. They say it's a shoulder stinger, but I don't know. Basic anatomy tells me that if it's a nerve issue that's connected to the shoulder, it's connected to the neck.
Started when he was in college, and it hasn't really – he just binds – I mean, he played 30 straight games between last year and this year.
Yeah.
And, boy, he looked really good at various times, especially against Houston. Gets knocked out in the first half against Jacksonville. When do you think they're going to see him back?
Yeah, I don't know. I think they're going to take their time, certainly give him, some time to heal. There's 3 games left in the season, depends on what they do the next couple of weeks. You might not see him to the playoffs. But, this should not be a season ender. At least the Cowboys are saying that right now, so they expect him back, certainly by the playoffs, maybe by the end of the regular season, and we'll see. But that was him being off the field was part of the reason for their woes against the Jacksonville, not being able to stop the run, giving 192 yards rushing, which is crazy.
That's impossible. That's so
as
bad.
As well as 318 yards passing. I mean, they didn't stop a nosebleed, and getting back to that 3rd and 10 pass, one reason why Mike McCarthy said that one reason why they felt they needed to go for it instead of just handing the ball off and play clock, because he didn't think his defense would stop him.
That's even so telling.
The clock is part of your defense, it's part of your friend. That's why it's there. That's why you forced to use a timeout. But he had no confidence in the defense of stopping them. And then when you look at the cornerback position, You know, they should have never kept Kelvin Joseph on the team. He was disappointed in the second round pick. He was involved in a drive-by shooting. You know, they stood by him, gave him a chance. You know, everybody was dogging at Anthony Brown. You dogging Anthony Brown. Now you miss Anthony Brown.
You miss Anthony Brown.
There's no one that can replace him that can hold up. This is going to be competitive. Anthony Brown gave up some plays, but he also got some plays. He also played. He was competitive. You don't know what you have there now, and so that's
what are they going to do? I mean, are they going to go back with Boss Man, or are they going to find somebody else?
Looked at Nashawn Wright. They just signed. They picked up Trayvon Mullen off waivers, who was a disappointment, a former second round pick. You know, so they're going to give other guys an opportunity. We'll see this week, but what we do know is teams are going to target that spot. And the troubling part is that, you know, we talk about the run defense. It's been a problem all year, but suddenly, that ferocious pass rush is not getting home. I don't know if Michael Parsons, if the playing defense end is taking a toll on him, but they're not getting home. They're not sacking. They're going to have one sack the past 2 weeks on, I think, 72 dropbacks against Houston. Well, they were doing some different things to get the ball out quick. Well, Jacksonville was doing the same. You know, they weren't getting the ball out quick. You just weren't getting home.
Yeah, and I think one quick thought before we go to break. I don't want to ask you about this, and it was my real concern about the front seven, specifically the front four, when the season started, was they were counting on Tank Lawrence, and Tank was great, and then he suffered a little bit of an injury. He told you it was quite painful, and he's been playing through it. But older players, when they hit 30 or December, it's tough, and he doesn't look the same, does he? To you?
I mean, who looks the same? Who's good? You know, my thing is that if you're going to be a great defense, you have to be great up front. And especially in the middle, they don't have great presence in the middle of that defense, which is
no, they don't.
The run. They got average run. I mean, they got average defensive tackles. You know, they're nice players, nice guys playing above their heads, but they're not special. And you know, one reason why you have to use Micah defensive end now, more so than linebackers, because you don't have anybody special on the edge.
Nope. All right, that's very optimistic. I am very optimistic about this next part, which is a word from our sponsors, the good people at Window Nation.
Window Nation, the star of window replacement and proud partner of the Dallas Cowboys, can help you fill the house this season with savings. Buy 2 windows, get 2 free, and make no payments and pay no interest until 2025. Fill your house for a customized authentic Dallas Cowboys jersey while supplies last. You could even help fill the Cowboys house and win tickets to a game. Visit windownation.com/Cowboys now for details. Call 866-95-NATION. Window Nation, proud partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
Back here on Cowboys Overtime, here on StarTelegram.com, Clarence Hill Jr. has decided to leave. This is one of the funnier come-after breaks I've ever seen. Clarence is not even there. I hope he's all right. Clarence, are you all right? Did something happen? This is great. He decided to leave. All right, Clarence, you decided. I got to know. Like, of all the things I've ever seen coming out after break, the co-host leaving.
I'm sorry.
That's a keeper.
Sorry.
That's a keeper.
Listen.
Your pipes break?
No, the trash man is coming. I did not put my trash out. It's Christmas. Do you know how the trash piles up during Christmas? I got people coming to the house, and I need to.
Yep.
And I forgot
totally understand.
I had to put the trash. I had to put the trash to the curb.
The trash. Yeah, that's
it's Christmas. Okay, you know the bags of stuff I'm going to have before the trash bag comes again next week.
Yep. I totally know. In fact, what I want in a dream house, like everybody talks about what they want in a dream house. I want a big kitchen, I want a big bathroom, I want a big media room. I don't. I want an industrial-sized dumpster that someone would come and remove every week, but that's what I want. So where I could sling the trash into it over and I wouldn't see it. So that's what I want. Okay, Clarence, let's look at the NFL standings real quick. Eagles 13-1, Dallas 10-4. I don't know where I got 14. 10-4. Vikings are 11-3. You want to shout out to the Colts for that one. San Francisco is 10-4, playing on what feels like their 8th quarterback. And Tampa Bay is in the mix because their division is so bad at 6-8. So, barring something historically unforeseen, the Cowboys will make the playoffs. We thought they were, and they are in the playoffs. Rather, they are in the playoffs because Washington, the Commanders, lost on Monday night against New York. So the Cowboys are in the playoffs. Cowboys have lost 2 games in the last 7 on the road in overtime. No one's happy. I mean, no, everybody's just whining and complaining. I don't know if that's just a specific Cowboys issue or if it's an NFL thing. Like, are people in Kansas City unhappy because they barely beat the Texans? Or people in Philadelphia unhappy because they barely beat the Texans? Or on and on. Are people in Minnesota worried because they had to come back from 100 points to beat the Vikings? But I swear to God, if you take the temperature of Cowboys Nation, not your house, but Cowboys Nation, it's over. It's done. Why are we wasting our time? I don't think they're going to win the Super Bowl, but I'm not that worried. But I swear to God, we should just quit.
Just think about it.
This is done.
Just think about it. The Cowboys are in the playoffs for back-to-back. You can say it back then all you want to. They won 10 games. They're in the playoffs.
They're going to get in
with 3 games to go. Okay, they're already in the playoffs with 3 games to go. They're in the playoffs in back-to-back seasons for the first time since 2006, 2007. They won double-digit games for the first time since 95, 96. These are steps in the right direction for the organization.
Hands down.
Okay,
no
these
doubt.
are things that they haven't done. These are steps in the right direction. The more you're in the playoffs, the more you have success, the more you're comfortable with success. It should breed
around it. You're
success,
around it.
all of that stuff. The problem with Cowboy fans, unlike other people, is you say Kansas City, they have the same record. They know they've won before. They know they can do it. Cowboy fans have PTSD. And, when the first sign of trouble, oh, here we go again. Oh, this is an example. We're not going to yes, we got 10 wins, but this is an example of why we won't win. We'll be one and done, even though, yes, we're 10-4, but because we couldn't beat Jacksonville, it means that we're going to get in the playoffs and play a freaking Tampa Bay team with Tom Brady that's awful.
Yep.
It's probably going to be 7-9 or whatever, 7-11, whatever, however it adds up to. 7-10 is a division winner, and they're going to lose to Tom Brady because all of a sudden he's going to be Super Bowl Tom Brady, even though they're 7-10. That's the mindset of Cowboy fans.
I know. I think you're right, and you know what? I think it's justified in terms of that fear. You hit the nail on the head. Chiefs fans are confident because they've been there before. They've done it. I wouldn't feel confident about the Vikings, but with the Cowboys, this is about one game. If they can somehow win that divisional game, then you've really advanced the ball.
What game?
When they get to the playoffs, I'm going to assume
they're going to be a wild card team.
They're going to be a wild card team. They're probably going to go on the road, and they'll play a bad Tampa team, and they'll end Tom Brady's career again until he decides he doesn't want to go home again, and he'll come back.
And then on the road again for divisional playoffs.
Probably. And then that's the measure. That's the measure. And if they win, and I know we're a month away, if they win that, then you've got something to really sink your teeth into and celebrate. Because until then, everything you just said is dead on right. It's PTSD. It's here we go again. It's here we go again. And it has befuddled this franchise for forever because the reality of it is they've been pretty good for a while. I mean, really, since about 2006, 2007, they've been pretty good. They just haven't had any January success. Speaking of January success, this upcoming game we thought was going to be essentially a preview of the NFC Championship game, but now it doesn't quite look the same way. Christmas Eve at AT&T Stadium, we were all excited about it 2 weeks ago, but a lot of things changed in the last week. The Dallas Cowboys will host the Philadelphia Eagles, who have the best record in the NFL at 13-1. This is the late game. This is the late Fox game. This is the game everybody wants to watch. But now it just doesn't quite feel the same. The Cowboys can't catch the Eagles. The Cowboys aren't going to catch the Eagles regardless of what happens. And yes?
Theoretically, they could.
Yeah, no, you're okay. You're right. They could if the Eagles.
If the Cowboys get out, the Eagles lose.
No, you're right. You're right. I'm going with the idea that it's probably not going to happen. But you're
not
right.
going to happen. But theoretically,
mathematically, you're right. It could happen. Now it looks like Eagles quarterback Jalen Hurts could be not playing, isn't playing, and
he's doubtful for the game. They haven't ruled him out, but he has a shoulder injury. There's no reason why he should play with a sprained shoulder. We watched Tony Romo for years, fall and get landed on that shoulder and break a collarbone. Why would you take a chance on what is essentially a meaningless game? And again, this was supposed to be the showdown. I remember the game of the century, the game of the season. Go back to all those college matchups. The Cowboys, the Eagles, and Cowboys messed it up first by losing to the Jaguars, because if they would have won that game, they'd have been only 2 games behind, and this game would have been crucial. They would have won this game. They would have had a chance to catch the Eagles for the NFC East, as well as possibly the conference home field advantage throughout the playoffs. That's what we thought. They were rolling. They were 4 straight wins. Yeah, they were playing some bad opponents, but they were going to get up for this Eagles team. Of course, they didn't get up for the Jaguars team and lost that game. And then the fact that the Eagles are probably going to play without their quarterback, Jalen Hurts. We're going to have Gardner Minshew here. This is certainly not the drama, not the exciting game that we had hoped on Christmas Eve, that everybody's going to unwrap their Christmas presents and be ready for this big game, at least the ones the night before, the people that do it on Christmas Eve. But again, turnabout is fair play. The Cowboys played the Eagles the first time without Dak Prescott.
Yep.
And this time the Eagles will probably play the Cowboys without, their starting quarterback, Jalen Hurts. And we'll see. So, no excuses. It's part of football. The Cowboys missed Dak Prescott for 5 games. Now the Eagles have a chance to miss their quarterback. So, no one, felt sorry for the Cowboys when they didn't have their quarterback. So no one's going to feel sorry for the Eagles because they possibly won't have their quarterback for 1 or 2 games.
Dallas Cowboys are 4.5-point favorites against the Eagles for that game on Saturday, rather, on Christmas Eve. One last thing before we wrap this up. Clarence, we've talked about a lot of different issues that this team has. Bottom line is they're still a 10-win team. They've got 3 games remaining. Of the things that we have discussed, Dak Prescott's interception problems. We even talked about the return of Tyron Smith and the fact that they put him in at right tackle, and he looked pretty good. The defense, linebackers, defensive line, corners, receivers, which is, of those issues that we talked about, which is the one that concerns you the most for the future of this team this season?
Well, it's the defense in the secondary. That cornerback position is going to be a position that teams are going to target. If they can't find somebody that can cover, it's going to be a problem.
I think you're right. Clarence, my very best to you and your family, especially your dad, when you finally turn up the heat to 58 degrees. Poor guy coming up there, and he's going to be cold. He's going to freeze himself to death.
You got a space heater, man. I got a space heater for you.
I understand how those work. Just make sure you unplug them when you leave the house. It's very important. That's very important. Merry Christmas to you. Happy holidays to everybody else. Thanks for joining us here on StarTelegram.com for all of your Cowboys coverage needs, and TCU too. Check us out here on StarTelegram.com, and we will see you next week here on Cowboys Overtime.